Nursing services and the restaurant industry, two sectors of the economy that have been most visibly affected by this pandemic. And my next guests have seen a lot unfold since the start of this pandemic 2 years ago. Lisa Dahl is the chef and owner of the Dahl Restaurant Group. She joins us from Sedona, Arizona. And Dr. Ernest Grant, president of the American Nurses Association from Silver Spring, Maryland. And Dr. Grant, I need to begin with you as the husband of somebody who's married to a nurse. I know firsthand the shortage is real and getting worse. Why?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This shortage that we're experiencing now is nothing new. The nursing shortage just got exacerbated, if you will, when COVID came along. But there's a lot of reasons why this particular shortage is so severe. Mainly nurses and other members of the healthcare team are so overworked. They have never worked as long and has been as challenged as they have been over the last 2+ years. And as a result of that, they have suffered not only physically, but also mentally as well. They're just, extremely exhausted. And even though we say that we're resilient, there's still, that need, even though the country is going into, is opening up more, COVID is still there, is still around, and we still have to be aware of the potential of, more potential outbreaks, as we're hearing about just today. We're not getting much of a reprieve from that, but essentially it's because of, this pandemic that we have been enduring for the last 2+ years.
And Dr. Grant, if I could take that one step further, because while many are going into the medical profession, the bedside nurse seems to be among the biggest problem, the biggest crisis point for hospitals, generally speaking.
Absolutely. There's a number of reasons why that problem is existing. Mainly, obviously, pay is a big driver of that. We at the ANA have been lobbying Congress for quite some time to have hazard pay available for people who performed through the last 2+ years. But we also have been, when we have spoken with employers to tell them that in order to retain nurses, they need to increase the salaries. Also, the work environment that nurses are in as well. They need to know that they are in a safe working environment. I hear daily from nurses who are physically and verbally abused by patients' families, and even their own colleagues. And again, part of that, I'm sure, is just part of the stress that we've been under for the last 2+ years. But that's still, you didn't sign up to become a nurse to be, physically and verbally abused. You went into the profession to help your fellow man. But, so having a system in place that would know that the employer has your back and that, you are working in a safe work environment is some of the big drivers as to what will keep nurses at the bedside and not have them, looking at opportunities elsewhere.
Let's turn to the hospitality and the restaurant industry. And Lisa Dahl, here on the East Coast, if you go to a restaurant, it's not unusual to see a sign that says, please be patient, we're short-staffed as well. So just how bad of a problem is it in the hospitality restaurant sector, and what are you seeing in Arizona?
Well, we're in a resort town, and it's a little bit different because we're really a microcosm of the larger city demographics. Here we're a town with about 1,200 year-round residents, and yet we have about 4 million tourists a year. So the supply and the demand is completely out of whack. Our tourism is growing, and there's so much demand for travel in the hospitality industry. The hotels are fully booked, the restaurants are fully booked, but we are just at the mercy of staffing. And we try to recruit, but yet we find that housing is such a difficult situation in a small town and in a demographic area like this, that everything seems to be kind of out of balance. And it's hard to know where we're going to find the new talent that we need to keep and sustain the business that we have at hand.
So I have to ask you, why and how has this pandemic made what has been a annual problem, trying to fill jobs, especially during the summer months, far more severe, far more damning right now?
Well, we've always been in a situation in a town like Sedona, Arizona, which is like many other tourist towns. We always have that feast or famine type of situation. Our high seasons are actually the spring and the fall, not actually the summer. Although now that we are in the post-pandemic somewhat, all of the seasons seem to be very high demand. People have been pent up. They're dying to get out. And we just have, in this little town, it's never been easy for labor. There are so many new restaurants, so many new hotels that are coming up all the time. And we're kind of caught up in a situation which is like a vicious cycle. Other businesses basically poach, and they need to supply their restaurants and their hotels. And so we're in a feeding frenzy when it comes to the hourly rates and the salaries. And I don't know how long we can sustain this type of situation where, we can only pay so much, and there's only so much talent to go around right now. So it's kind of a scary time for us.
Dr.
But
Grant,
a good time as well, because we're so happy that we're so popular.
Mm-hmm.
But by the same token, we're desperately looking to bring people in from outside our general area. But everyone else is. And at some point, we need to find a way to find affordable housing and things that we can really bring in the talent and have them find a good place to live for their families.
When it comes to salaries, Dr. Grant, you could be a bedside nurse earning $25 to $35 an hour, working next to a traveling nurse who could be earning $70 to $80 an hour, plus bonuses and plus a housing allowance. So how does that disparity play out in hospitals around the country? And how does that pose a new set of challenges?
Well, the biggest challenge that puts forth is, of course, hospitals need to and long-term care and other facilities that may be using a travel nurse, they need to invest in the nurse who is remaining loyal to their institution. I have nothing against paying a travel nurse what it costs to get them in the door. They are. It's a supply and demand situation. However, obviously, what happens eventually, though, is that someone who has been with an organization long term, they do not see perhaps that investment in them. The employer is not rewarding them for remaining loyal to the institution. So therefore, they perhaps are going to go look at becoming a travel nurse as well. And then all that, institutional knowledge, the huge brain drain that may bring about, could also create chaos within that institution. And of course, it's the consumer who probably is going to be suffering as a result of that, because of when you get a travel nurse that may come in, usually they're doing like a 3-month assignment. They obviously have to meet a certain criteria and standards. So I'm not trying to imply that substandard care would be provided. That's definitely not the case. But you have someone that probably, if they're only going to be there for 3 months, they're just beginning to learn the routine, and then they may take an assignment somewhere else. And what little bit of knowledge they may have gained at that institution, the next institution is going to benefit from it. So what we really need to do, as I stated earlier, we've had conversations with members of Congress, with Department of Health and Human Services. Let's get to the root of what's causing this nursing shortage, of which one is, the pay difference, and pay nurses for what they are worth, and not keep us in as part of the room and board, but actually allow us to be able to charge for what we bring to the table.
Lisa Dahl, as you know, the pandemic has really kind of opened our eyes in terms of how the economy is operating and where there are some gaping holes. what we've seen really in the last 18 months is the supply chain. And I'm curious from your standpoint and from the restaurant industry, how this has led to further disruptions in your sector.
Well, as far as the supply chain, there's no norm anymore. We have a hard time getting almost everything from, of course, our employees that we desperately need, but even the supplies that we need. I'll give you a funny example. Just yesterday, the company that I buy these wonderful French fries for my burger concept could no longer produce them. Somehow they discontinued that product, but that is an everyday norm. So if I had the luxury to sit at my desk and just work on these deficiencies and try to find alternative products and opportunities that would be creative, but I really don't. I actually find that I'm in my kitchens. People ask me every day, "You're not in the kitchen anymore, are you?" And I say, "Oh yes, I'm in the kitchen because I have to be in the kitchen because training is the new norm. Every day we try to recruit to get new people, but the exhaustive process of training people every day and having trainers to train the new talent, especially when you do realize that the people that used to be paid 14 and 15 as prep cooks are now 25 and even higher. So this is kind of the position that we find ourselves in every day now. It's scrabbling for everything and trying to just get somewhat back to the good old days.
And Dr. Grant, from your position at the American Nurses Association, how is all of this that we've been talking about today, how is it impacting the care that patients are receiving in nursing homes and in hospitals?
Well, one of the big impact, obviously, is the fact that because there is a shortage, then that means that care is possibly going to be put at risk. So every opportunity that we can do or can make to make sure that there is appropriate staffing to cover these shortages. We also have to look at the downside, or not necessarily the downside, but I mean a nurse being able to have time off from work so that they themselves can recuperate. When you're working, normally when you're used to working 4 days a week or 5 days a week, and now your employer is asking you to work, sometimes 7 days a week, your body can't rebound like that. And as a result of that, you're putting yourself and the patients that you care for at risk. And we can't continue to have a model like this. It's very important that we step back and take a look and assess what's going on and do whatever we can to get more nurses at the bedside so that you continue to maintain a safe practice environment, not only for the staff but also for the patients that we're providing care for.
So I guess what I hear you saying, Dr. Grant, is that pay is a key component, but not the only component.
Absolutely. When we have talked with nurses, we've done polling. Yes, pay is a very major component, but they mainly want to know, too, that they are working in a safe environment where, again, as I stated earlier, they're not being physically and verbally abused by patients, families, or even their colleagues, that their employer has their back, and that they have other benefits, which would also make it a prime place that they would want to remain employed at, and that their voices are heard, being there, contributing to, what is going on, have a staffing governance committee or whatever that can offer suggestions for how to make the work environment a better or pleasing environment for nurses as well.
And Lisa Dahl, with a half a minute left, a very quick question for you personally in Sedona, Arizona. How many applicants do you get for every job opening?
Well, nowadays, we see a lot less applicants for the openings. We're doing much better with the front of the house where the servers work on tips. But in terms of the kitchen labor, We don't see as many applicants as we ever did in the past, and it's very dire right now. Maybe 3 a day for key positions as chefs and trainers, but we need a lot more. We're used to about 300 employees for my restaurant group. Now we're climbing back to about 260, but we have a new restaurant opening and we really need talent, and we can't open that restaurant without the labor. And right now we're months behind.
Two important areas of the economy: the hospitality industry, the restaurant industry, and of course nursing and medical care. We want to thank both of you. Lisa Dahl is a chef and the owner of the Dahl Restaurant Group in Arizona, and Dr. Ernest Grant. He is the president of the American Nurses Association. To both of you, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having us.